Hi, this is Linda Krupa with the Artful Link, and this piece didn't all completely record, and my apologies for that in advance. Um, I was listening to some worship music, and I had this image in my head of what was going on this piece. So, bits and pieces of it were not recorded, um, especially since it's rather long and I kind of ran out of space on my phone. So, just to give you a little bit of what's happening here, I have a canvas that I have primed with all-purpose kilz. That's Kilz, and I put 3 coats, lightly sanding in between. This allows me to use the alcohol ink on the canvas and still maintain the fluidity of the alcohol inks. So in some cups off to the side, I have some inks diluted with 99% isopropyl alcohol. And so their strengths are somewhat diluted so that I can have a very light middle ground where you see that very pale blue. That's, I believe it was Baja blue. And then the darker blue there is a Prussian blue that was diluted down. So here I've put those 2 colors on where I'm thinking I want these cloud-like formations to be. This is going to be kind of a dark nighttime type painting. The image you'll get to see at the end is not complete, and hopefully by the time I post this I'll have the completed piece put up. So here I'm just going in and adding some more of that Baja ink in the middle section. I like to use the paper towel to help give me those textures in the sky that you might see during storms or clouds, that kind of thing. So the pen, the watercolor pen that I'm using right there, has 90% alcohol with just a couple drops of water. And this helps to keep the alcohol from doing its normal thing by pushing the ink away. So a couple drops of water will help me move the ink around without causing the ink to push away and resist. Instead, it causes it to flow a little bit better. So now I'm going back in with my paper towel, and I'm not really concerned about the shape that my paper towel is in. I'm just lifting out like you do with an underpainting. So here I'm just kind of working with it to see what happens and what comes, and not really too concerned with the overall look of the background because the background is going to be more abstract. As you can see, I don't wear gloves. It comes off really easy with some hand sanitizer and a bit of soap, so I've never been too concerned. Now I'm going in with a black that also has a bit of, I think it's called Twilight Purple, added into straight black. And it has been diluted with some isopropyl alcohol. And I use my dropper kind of like a paintbrush. I'm just letting it go where it wants to go. I'm not squeezing. The ink will just come out of the dropper with no assistance from me other than just pulling it along on the canvas. Here I'm kind of making sure that some of this black ink drips down over the sides of the canvas, which are also primed with the all-purpose kilz. As I was looking at the painting, I'm starting to see some shapes that are taking place within the ink. And so I start going in with droppers of other colors of ink. Still my main set of colors. I still have the black, the blues, this is very much a intuitive process. Just waiting to see what the Lord inspires me to do. Using the paper towel to pull some of that ink off. It gives texture, it adds lowlights and highlights. I can move the ink where I want it to go a little bit more. I could pull out brushes too, but sometimes when I'm doing this kind of painting, I prefer to use my hands. Adding in some more of the black that's mixed with a little bit of purple. Adding some more of the blue in there. Initially, I thought these were going to be clouds of sort, like dark, roiling clouds coming in from a coming storm. But as the painting develops further, I see them more as the entrance of a cave. Here I'm just softening some of the harder edges that might be showing up in the back. Because at this point I still am clueless that this is going to be something or someone looking out at the surroundings from inside a cave. And here I'm just, again, just layering inks. One layer dries, I add another layer. If the ink starts moving too much and taking over, I'll often come back in with a couple dabs of water, just to keep the ink in the places that I want it. That's the only way I know to describe it. But just tapping off my brush, because sometimes you get ink transferring, and if I'm going to go into a lighter area that I do not want that dark ink, then I need a clean brush. So I'm showing you that I'm using purified water and putting it in a little cup. And I'm going to take my little pen and use that water to smooth out some of those rough edges and add texture without causing the ink to take over and bloom. Here I started to pull that black out further, and I don't know why I did that. So I'm just going in with my paper towel and I'm dabbing it out. So here I was searching for the brown inks, the alcohol inks that I have, and I have a teak color brown and a coffee brown, and I've put those into my little medicine pill box that I use for my alcohol inks when I want them to dry up some, and I can reactivate them at any time, as I've done here. The less alcohol they have present in them, the less they move. So here I'm going in and I'm putting some distant cliffs, mountains, whatever you want to call them. Just putting in some rocks and felt like at this point I was beginning to see the picture. And while the bottom half is still quite far from being finished, I knew that I needed to get this in while I was seeing it. Because I work intuitively and wait for the piece to speak to me, the process is a little different than, say, going in with an idea of what you're going to paint. I don't know what I'm going to paint. I let it speak to me and tell me what it wants to be, combined with what I feel like I'm hearing in my hands and in my heart, gives life to the painting. So now I'm taking some of those browns and coffee color inks, and I've diluted some out so that I get lighter bits of the ink as well as darker pieces. And I'm sensing that there might be a path that goes in front of this area. And so I'm starting to put in some color, just skipping it around, not really too terribly concerned at this point on where the ink is placed. I'll work on shadows and light further on down in the painting. As you can see, I let those inks dry a little bit, and now I'm just going back in with my watercolor pen that has 99% alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, with just a few drops of water mixed up. And this allows me to control how much of it blooms. I'm taking some of those blues and I'm mixing them in here because I feel like there'll be shadow and some will be light areas. I've taken a bit of that purple twilight that I used in the black and added it down below for some of the cast-off shadows that are on this path. So now what I'm doing here is I'm working to connect the mountain that I made with this path. And the path is kind of a circular, like they have in the mountains when you go like to Colorado or someplace, there's all these switchbacks and things like that. Well, that's what I'm attempting here. So here I'm adding in some more of that purple for the shadows along the inside portion of that mountain that's off in the distance. I'm beginning to get a much better picture in my head of what I feel like I'm painting. Here I was just lifting it up so I could look at it straight on and see how it was looking, if I felt like I needed a little bit more, which I did. Just trying to make sure that what I'm seeing is truly perspective-wise going to work. Again, just working out any hard edges that might be on the ink, just to soften it a bit. I spend a lot of time working on the background of this piece, and in the end, I probably didn't need to do nearly as much as I did, but I still think that's important, especially when you're painting intuitively. If you're not certain what your painting is going to be of, in my case, because I paint thoughts and feelings at the same time for an overall emotion as well as a design aspect, then I want to make sure what I'm doing on the canvas is going to reflect that. So I already know that this is a nighttime piece. This is looking like it's a cave with mountain off in the distance. At some point here, I'll go in and begin to put some stars and a moon in the sky. So I know those things already, and I know that I have a path. What I don't know is that where it ends, or will there be something more? So I'm just scumbling along with the ink and moving it around, adding a little bit more alcohol, water blend to the ink. This just gives me some texture and some variances in the ink colors. Um, So here I'm just starting to put in the lighter parts of this dirt road or sandy road, and defining some of the areas where there might be cast shadows or rocks, that kind of thing. You can see I have started putting in the switchback. Off on the right side, and for you it would be your bottom left where the switchback is, and I start to darken some of these lower areas. It seems like this is a cave that sits right off the side of this road where something or someone or someone's might take refuge. And this is where I start to get the idea of what will be added into the final part of the painting. So here I had added a little bit more of that purple, and now I'm just kind of pushing it into the canvas, um, trying to make sure that things are blended well, and maybe lighten up some areas, wiping off my brush, doing the things that we have to do with inks to make sure that things look right. Here I'm trying to hint at maybe a ravine down there, or a ditch, or just a darker area that really isn't important to the viewer's eye, but gives a suggestion or a hint of where they've still yet to travel, or where they've just come from. I'm trying to make it very clear that this is a viewpoint from inside a cave. If you've made it this far into the video and have liked what I've shown you and the techniques that I've used, I hope you will like this video and cause it to be pushed further up into the algorithm of YouTube, as well as subscribe to my channel. I don't post weekly. I kind of post when I feel I have something new to share. So you're not going to get spammed with notifications that I posted today and yesterday and tomorrow, and you know what I'm saying. So only when I have something new to offer. So here's a view of it completed as far as the background, so to speak. And what I had decided was I'm going to go in and put in some texture by scraping out back to the canvas, showing some of the white highlights that might be coming off the moon that I'm going to add in a little while. And as I'm doing it, I'm just scraping in some rocks, adding some vegetation, that kind of thing. Just a little bit here and there, not a lot. So I'm just trying to give you a close-up of where I've scratched in a bit, but I know it's hard to see. So this part is kind of where I take a Q-tip and I've dipped it in some alcohol with a little bit of water, and now I'm going to remove some of the ink and create the aura that shines around the moon. And it won't be terribly obvious until I get to the end. This is just kind of placement and where it will be. If you notice, you can scrub really hard at this and only remove a small bit thanks to that water. I do apologize for the background noise. While I was recording this, my husband was watching football and watching his beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. So occasionally you might hear him yelling at the TV in the background. My studio is right above the living area. So here I've decided that the upper portion here where I put the black needs to be just a bit darker. So I've added in my diluted black and purple mixture. And I'm being very excessive with the amounts that I'm putting in. I'm also covering the sides with it. Unfortunately, soon my camera decides, no, you don't have any more room, and cuts off. So you miss me sketching in my travelers that are on this path. I have recently read the poem over the Christmas holidays by T.S. Eliot on the journey of the Magi, and it really provoked in me some deep images of their travel and what they must have encountered on their journey. And this is what kind of one of the images that I saw as they were traveling, following the star to the east. So here's where I've realized, after I sketched in my three wise men on their camels, that my camera had stopped working. So I had to clear some space and make room so I could add in a bit more. And then two, I realized I might have made these a little bit larger than what I should have. So because I didn't have enough space, you kind of get the underpainting here in just a moment of the three wise men.